Alright, this is John Cola with growingyourgreens.com. Today it's a beautiful April day and I have a special treat for you. One of the questions I get a lot is, John, how do you use all that food that you're growing and what do you do with it all? You know, make some recipes for us. So, alright, today I'm going to show you one of the primary ways actually I use a lot of my greens and things I grow here. I make fresh juices, so fresh vegetable juices primarily. So what we're going to do is walk around the yard today, or walk around my garden today, and we're going to pick some produce and then we're going to juice it for you. So let's see, right now we're coming out of the winter garden, and right now I like to use all my bok choy. The bok choy is actually one of the staples or one of the main components of my juice right now, and that's mainly because of the stalks. The bok choy stalks are basically a great source of liquid. So let me harvest one here. So yeah, these stalks are amazing. They're nice, and they're really good, and in juice they make a nice, real good juice. And also the greens contain lots of chlorophyll. So let's go ahead and pick a couple of these leaves here. So if you're not growing bok choy, you could also use celery as a base to the juice. And in summertime, I'll often like to use cucumbers as a base. So celery, bok choy, or cucumbers are usually my base. You could also use carrots as well, but my carrots are really small right now, and bok choy is a lot easier to grow. It grows much faster. Alright, so here's my greens bed. In my greens bed I have things like kale, collards, cauliflower, broccoli, and chard growing, and different varieties. And one of my favorite things to juice is the greens, and that's how you could really use greens a lot faster than you could normally eat them. So I think of a juicer as a produce multiplier, produce consumption multiplier. Basically, it lets you eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. And how many of you have eaten your 5 to 9 servings a day? I know I get my 5 to 9 servings every single day, and thanks to my garden here. But so juicing and using the greens in your juice allow you to basically take more of this good stuff in, because there's a lot of fiber, and some people don't like the taste of eating straight greens. I mean, some of my baby greens, I was out here last night picking the baby greens for my salad, and I mean, this stuff tastes sweeter than lettuce to me, and actually I prefer it over lettuce. It's a lot more nutrient dense as well. So let's go back and pick one of these big leaves. And one of the questions is, John, what do I juice? Well, you know what? I come down and I pick off all the leaves near the bottom. And these are some of the biggest leaves. And these are the leaves that I juice. And the reason for that is, number one, is because, when you cut a leaf off, now the plant's going to be like, oh, I got a leaf cut. Now I better, put more energy into growing. That's one reason. The other reason is, what the heck are you going to do with these big leaves anyways? The bigger leaves tend to be more fibrous. And, so the smaller leaves are good for eating out of hand and eating fresh. I guess if you did cook them, the cooking process would break down the fibers, but I want to eat foods that are rich in enzymes. And once you cook your foods, they're devoid of enzymes, and as we know, also the nutrition goes down. So by juicing your big leaves, you're going to basically break up the fiber, get all the liquid. It's the juice of the fiber that feeds you. The juice is the nutrients of the plant, except for the fiber. And when we take it away and separate it from the fiber, then it's a lot easier for our body to absorb. Imagine that big Thanksgiving dinner you had last Thanksgiving, and usually after the big Thanksgiving dinner you kind of get tired and you want to go to sleep. And that's because our body takes energy to extract the energy out of the foods we eat. And Thanksgiving dinner is probably the extreme example of taking the most energy, because we're filling up on turkey and pie, pumpkin pies, and all kinds of stuff, and usually probably people overeat a little bit on Thanksgiving too, but then you feel tired afterwards. And juicing is the exact opposite end of the spectrum. Juice is one of the easiest foods to digest, and it's one of the easiest foods for you to eat that your body could easily get the energy out of. So it's almost like, you drink the juice and then you have instant energy, and you don't get tired because, it's just instant energy your body could just extract that energy out of. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to pick a couple more greens, and we'll be juicing these up in just one moment. So juicing is another way to actually use some of your, damaged leaves. So this has some damage around the edge, so I'm just going to basically pull off this edge. We're going to compost the bad parts. And you know what? Now we're going to juice the good parts, and this stalk is actually a really good part to juice. So that's how I use a lot of the produce that have, major big bug holes or, damage, but some of it's still good. They're excellent to juice. All right, so Dino Kale is one of my favorite kales. And look at this nice long kale. Dino or Lactacino kale. Kale is actually one of the most nutritious foods on earth. Probably the second in my book of plants or vegetables on earth. The first is actually being Egyptian spinach. But kale's definitely good to juice, really rich in nutrition. But you know, how many people like eating their kale? So juicing is another way to slip it in, and when we're gonna juice with kale and other things that you pretty much won't be able to taste the, you know, the flavor of the kale. We're gonna doctor it up with some apples, which will give it some sweetness, and some lemon, which really adds flavor to the juice. All right, so now I've picked all the produce, and now we're gonna juice the produce in one of my favorite juicers called the Omega Vert juicer. Really easy to use. You're just gonna go ahead and turn it on. We're gonna take our beautiful bok choy and put it into the juicer. Now I gotta give you the disclaimer here. My real job, and many people actually have always wondered about my real job. Actually, I sell juicers for a living so that you can eat more fresh fruits and vegetables in your diet. I think it's very important to you know, eat lots of fruits and vegetables, because definitely most people don't eat enough, and you know, we have a society full of overweight people that aren't eating their fruits and vegetables. And I bet if everybody ate their fruits and vegetables and other whole foods and minimally processed foods, you know, we as a nation would be a lot healthier. So that's some bok choy. Now when you're juicing the carrots, I just dug these carrots up. When you're juicing the carrots, we want to remove the tops, and you could juice the carrots but not the tops. On the beet greens, you can juice the actually beet greens. So here's that beautiful dino kale or lactacino kale going into the juicer. Now green juices is where it's at. You really want to juice your dark leafy greens because most people don't eat enough. Now lemons are great to juice, add a nice lemon flavor to the juice, and you could also, you know, put the skin in with your lemons as long as, you know, they don't have any pesticides. And just dump that in there, it'll juice, skin and all. So I got this nice heirloom yellow carrot, and I encourage people to, you know, juice a wide variety of colors in their juice, whether it's yellow carrots or whatever, and growing heirloom things. Let's throw that in there. Another little small carrot here. And here's a beet that I just dug up. Really nice beet there. Now it's really important when you're juicing beets, you know, be cautious, because if you juice too many beets, one time I, you know, thought I would be cool and drank straight beet juice, and guess what? About a half hour later, I threw it all up, because beet juice can be very detoxifying if you're not used to it. So use only a little bit of beet. So my general guidelines is, you know, 3/4 of your juice should be like a nice, rich, watery green. So by that I mean something like bok choy or celery or cucumbers, or even like lettuce. Lettuce could be a nice 3/4 of your glass of juice, or even carrots would also be really well because they're pretty neutral. And then 3/4 of your glass is one of those things, and then the last quarter could be basically the dark leafy greens, so like the kale and the collards, the broccoli leaves, and other things that are a little bit strong. I'm gonna go ahead and use the pusher to push that in. Here goes the apple. One of the things I didn't grow. I have 2 apple trees, but they haven't been producing too much for me. And we'll just go ahead and put the apple in there. Now check out this leaf. This is a cool leaf. Now to feed it into the juicer, the best thing I've found is that if you just take it and you roll it up, it's gonna work a lot better. We'll feed the leaf end first. Look at that, what a way to use your greens. So as you can see, I mean, leaves go really fast and they don't create a lot of juice, so you need a lot of leaves to make just a little bit of a juice. All right, even things like spinach, this fresh picked spinach, definitely Popeye would approve. And don't forget about your herbs. So some people would consider parsley an herb. I consider it a vegetable, and parsley is excellent to juice, really nutritious, one of my favorites. We're gonna put that in the juicer. And you know, I do want to mention there are different kinds of juicers out there, and you know, some juicers are better at juicing some things than others. So if you saw the Jack LaLanne commercial on TV, that style juicer is called a centrifugal ejection style juicer, and that style juicer is good for juicing like apples and carrots and lemons and harder things, but it really sucks, and it's not good at juicing leafy greens, which is what I think we should be juicing the most of. So leafy greens have a special texture. When you juice them in a centrifugal ejection, basically it'll shred it and then kick out whole chunks of leaves without getting them juiced. Whereas this is called a single auger style juicer, and it's much more efficient at juicing the leafy greens, so it gets a much higher yield, so you're not going to waste as much produce. And as you can see here, this pulp coming out, you know, this is just some green juice pulp, and I mean it's pretty dang dry. So let's see, we're about full here on the juice coming out. We're going to go ahead and turn the juicer off. Move that over there, and here's my green juice. Let's see, and I'll stir it up. And you know, all juicers will create a foam, and you could either drink the foam or pour it off. Doesn't really matter. You could use a sieve to strain it out, or actually a gravy separator is another useful kitchen tool that'll work on. Fresh green juice. It's so good for you, and I encourage everybody to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. So this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. Hope you've enjoyed this juicing recipe and one of the ways I use some of my produce. We'll see you next time.